Hello and welcome to Single Parent Success Stories, a podcast designed to help struggling single parents by sharing ideas, strategies, inspiration to help you on your road of this journey of being a single parent. And today I have a pleasure of introducing an amazing lady. Her name is Charlene Helm. She's a single mother and has an 8-year-old daughter, Solayah, who lives with her full-time. In the Comox Valley of British Columbia, Canada, she is a published children's book author, an early childhood educator, an intuitive spiritual practitioner, a challenge queen, an actualization mentor. Charlene helps coach and guide 40-plus spiritual mompreneurs through major life transformations who feel lost and who are in need of direction and clarity moving forward. So welcome, Charlene. It is a pleasure to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, so thank you. The first question I ask all my guests is to please share your story, how you became a single parent. Was this by choice or was it an accident? Please share your story with us.
Thanks so much. And thank you again for having me on here. I'm happy to share my story. So my story may seem a little unorthodox. Actually, when I got together with my ex, I was never married. We were just boyfriend, girlfriend, and we moved in together quite quickly. It's one of those very passionate relationships where we moved quite fast. And the one thing that we had in common, though, is that we wanted to have children, both of us, right away. It's really abnormal at that point in time. So I think that really was our mission, you know, like maybe Solayah chose us as her parents, but we were together for about 1.5 years and kept working at it. We finally got pregnant. And when I got pregnant, our differences became glaringly opposite. You know, like they were so obvious that we were not meant for each other. We were fighting all the time. We were a little bit beforehand too, but in the pregnancy, it really magnified. And I was like, you know, we had many talks about this. And I said, this is not what love looks like. You know, I grew up with parents who got along, and while they'd argue and not get along all the time, for the great majority, they balanced each other. So I grew up seeing what I believe love to be a healthy relationship. And that's not something, what we were doing was not something that I wanted to model for my daughter. And my ex, my boyfriend at the time, felt the same way. So we made a decision to break up. So at 5 months pregnant, I made a choice to become a single mom. And at that time, I was also going back to school to finish my high school. Mm-hmm. So what had happened is I left when I was 15 years old home, and I went into the entertainment business. And when I came back to Canada and started over again, I ended up working at a couple different jobs. And one of them at the time when I got pregnant was Starbucks. So I was paying minimum wage. So when I went out on my own, I wasn't making very much money at all. And I was worried about the mat leave and whatnot. So I wanted to do better for myself. So in order to do that, I had to go back to school and relearn and get my high school diploma. So I did. And I graduated at 6 months pregnant. I got the Award of Merit, so the top honor, and a $500 cash prize. And what that taught me while I was on stage getting this award 6 months pregnant is that you're never too old to learn anything. Mm-hmm. And I can do this. And I knew at that point that it was me and my daughter, and we were facing the world together. And it was a whole new journey. So yeah, it was a really powerful experience. So that's my story with that. In leaving, when Lucas and I split up, when we made that decision to do that, I said I wanted to change the way the discipline looked. I was learning how to become an early childhood educator. So because patience doesn't come to me naturally. So I had to learn, you know, back when my parents raised me, there wasn't a manual. There is now. It costs about $5,000 to get that certificate. But I really, really wanted to learn how to parent differently and parent mindfully and have just have a different language and different direction with that was more empowering, because I had left at such an early age. I wanted to make sure that my daughter and I remained close. And then when I learned about early childhood education, I had this epiphany that my parents were doing everything right. They really were. They were quite innovative. I was in personal development really early on. I met people like Deepak Chopra really early on when he was in his earlier stages. So I was doing everything right, but my parents just hit me at the wrong time. And so with my daughter, I'm very conscious to do everything to make sure our attachment is very strong early on and maintain it so that hopefully she doesn't decide to take the scenic route in life like I did. So the scenic route is quite colorful, but it would set her up for more success if she had a different perspective and whatnot. So discipline was really important to me, and remaining attached. And for my ex, he wanted to make sure that he was very present in his parenting. He really wanted to be involved, which isn't a story I hear very common from a lot of single parents. I've done lots of work with them. So that was a blessing. So we made an agreement to co-parent together as happily as possible. And that's what happened.
Good. That's a great story. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. What were some of the things that you had to overcome and the struggles that you faced?
Lots when it comes to mindset, especially. So, I've always been a pretty strong and independent person. But being a single mother, you face different challenges. So I was working full-time and going to school part-time. I've always had a different kind of perspective on life. I've never really fit into the regular box routine that a lot of people did here, that kind of what's expected to you. You go to a 9-to-5 job, you do whatever. I did a lot of entertainment. So I just had this different view. So I felt a little restricted in not only who I was as a person, but in that kind of lifestyle. So it took a lot for me to learn how to grow through that. I love being a mom more than anything. And in being a mom, I really lost my identity, so there was lots of growth. So I immersed myself in reading, in shows like Super Soul Sunday, where I learn about the really good books and people to follow. I practiced these things in my daily life. I came up with activities and routines that would try and wake up my passion again, in a different way, in a new way, and try and explore who I am in this new body with this new life. How do I do it so that it's still fun and exciting? Because that's the one thing that was missing, was the fun. Yeah. And amidst all of that, I went through a lot of tragedy. My dad died by suicide, very suddenly. And after that, I went through 18 deaths, a bunch of family, friends, substance abuse related death, multiple suicides, cancer, all of the family pets, like literally everything, 18 deaths over 5 years. And it started with my dad when my daughter was 1. Oh. So with that came its own challenges too, on top of the ones that already existed. So I really, really, really immersed myself in everything health and wellness, and forced myself through a new birthing process of how to heal myself, my mind, body, spirit, and soul, and reconnect and align with myself in a way that brings value and meaning. So that's what I've done. And I'm happy to say that now, it's been about, it was 2012 when that happened. It was a week before Christmas. Yeah. So I guess it's been about 7 years now. And I can say that the tragedy doesn't trigger me anymore. I think because I've done so much with it. I've done so much, so many physical practices and exercises. I take my pain, and I have a strong desire to move pain to purpose, very intentionally, which is how my children's book was developed. I wrote a children's book called What Mama Says About Grief. Yeah. And it's a book to help connect the adult and child during times of trauma and loss. It can be a separation. It can be a move. It can be death in itself, because all of those are painful losses. And how to bridge that relationship back to each other. Because as a parent, I went through all of that loss, and my daughter's one, and I'm working full time, doing school and everything, like I was saying. And then I was stuck in this dizzy confusion. I felt I really dropped the ball in my parenting. Many of you may feel that way when it comes to divorce, or if you went through a job loss, or a move, or something really big, a major life transition at that point. And there's this disconnect that I experienced. I couldn't connect emotionally with anyone. I was starting to distance as a parent. Yeah. So the book was a way to heal our relationship back to each other, even though she was one, and put a language to it. And that wasn't something that I had found at that time. So I created it, and it's been amazing. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And I can relate. What happened to me is I became a single parent when my child was a newborn, 1 month old, and my daughter was 5-year-old, and I couldn't really relate, and also felt disconnected, and just went through daily motions, day in and day out, just fulfilling my obligations, but never really feeling, never really knowing what I am as a person. I lost myself in the relationship because I've been married for 9+ years, and we knew each other for 15 years. So I became associated like I'm somebody else's wife, but who am I as a person? What do I like or dislike? So that part was lost, and it took also a journey for me to find where I am today, by also pursuing personal development and creating daily rituals to help myself clear my mind in the morning. I like to have a morning routine, and then anchoring in the present, because oftentimes we live in the past. But not present is all we got right now, being here, being grateful for where we are, forgiving our past and moving forward. So the points that you made are very, very relevant. And the book you wrote, I think, is very beautiful. And it will not only help you to transition, but also now your daughter is older, she can probably read your book and feel more connected to you and appreciate what you have gone through and how you are here today and sharing that with the world. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's not only her too, because I was in early child care. So I had a home daycare. That's how I was able to stay home with her as a single parent. I wanted to be present in my parenting too. So I stayed home with her. And then when I moved to the commercial centers to do, and I worked in early years, so 2.5 to 5 years old. I brought the book with me there. And so I made it because I continued in that point in my life to continue for the next 5 years to continuously go through this tragic loss. And went, wow, what's going on? Okay, I get it. You want me to share a message? I will share the message. Does nobody else die? I will share it. So what I chose to do is take all of the personal development skills, tools, resources, strategies that I use in daycare and that I use on myself in my daily practice. And it is a practice continuously every day. But I apply these in my life. And then what I did was I take that into childcare. So I teach 2.5 to 5 year olds how to do the exact same practices that I do, because children have the same thoughts, feelings, and emotions as adults, but they translate them different because of where their brain's at in its developmental stages. So essentially, if you can think of like the brain being like an attic, an empty attic, we're adding in the drywall and we're scaffolding that learning. So I give them something small and manageable, and each time I would layer it with language or layer it with an awareness of what feelings feel like in the body, give them language to recognize, cues to notice, and then give them an outlet for how to take that energy out of the body and put it into something so that it's out. Because like for adults, we could do that in drinking, drugging, shopping, sexing, whatever the case may be. That's how we would choose to do it. With children, it comes out in behavior. So I don't know if you notice that with your children, when you go through that transition, you're going through your identity loss and feeling, trying to put the pieces back together for yourself. There's a confusion that comes with that. And at the same time, the children may go through some behaviors. It's just them feeling that energy of confusion in their body too, and just not knowing what to do with it. So that is something that we can learn and apply as a skill in our life. And when we're the adult and helping partner with the children through that experience and communicating when we're not at our most shiny best and helping each other through it, that's what makes the relationship so much stronger. And that's something I'm so passionate about helping families with during major transition. And yeah.
Thank you. That's awesome. Great points. If you could go back in time, would you do anything differently?
You know, I don't think I would. You know, some people, I do my best not to live with any regrets. Mm-hmm. Because everything that's happened for a reason, so that I would get to this place, so that I would go through an awareness, some type of learning lesson, myself or the other person, to get to this point where I can speak to it confidently. Mm-hmm. And I've been through a lot of pain, like a lot, more than I thought I could bear at times. You know, well, I was crumpled on the kitchen floor crying, wondering how I'm going to make it to tomorrow. But I learned how to speak through pain, and I learned that I can meet people at a place where they're at their deepest and darkest and help them through it, because I've been through it. And because people know that I've been through it, they can be mask-free when they're with me. And that is such a blessing and a gift, because I can partner with them through that experience and help them out only because I've been there. So no, I don't think I would do anything differently, even though it's hard. I don't think I would.
All right. Thank you. Any advice that you can share with current single parents who are at the point in their life when some significant event happened? Any advice that you can share for them?
I would say embrace the fog. Embrace the fog. I have the one thing that really pulled me through over and above anything else was this innate belief that there's sunshine behind the clouds. I just always knew. And I also equate it to fog. So think of, you know, you're in your car, you're driving, mm-hmm. and you come across a really thick fog in your life, being the major transition. It's so thick that you almost have to stop your car because you're on the highway. It's dangerous. Anything could happen. Like here we have deer, right? Maybe a deer could pop out on you. Who knows? There are dangers ahead that are unseen. And it's terrifying when you can't see past what's right in front of you. You have to be in the moment, and you need to slow down, take some breaths, and have belief that you will get through that fog. You will. It's inevitable. It must pass. Mm-hmm. You don't know how long it's going to be there for, so you just need to breathe through it, slow down, and take off the blinders. Really be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of the signs and signals that things are starting to clear for you, and be hopeful about what lies ahead, because what I've noticed, and I don't know if you have in your life, but usually when the fog clears, it's a brilliant day. So have belief in that sunshine behind the clouds. Have belief in that fog clearing, because it will. And just be present as you can. And the easiest way to do that is to learn how to let go of the outcome. Huge lesson, constant practice. It is not an easy one. But if you can let go of the outcome and trust and know that life happens for you, not to you, but for you, everything bad will lead you to where you're supposed to be in life. You don't know what you're meant for. So embrace the fog, really embrace the fog, and look for what the lesson is that you need to learn in that moment and grow through it. And then look for somebody like a coach or a mentor, or somebody like you, Irina. You know, you're having this podcast to help inspire people so that people are reassured that you can make it through. You can. What are you going to do with that pain? Find a purpose for it. How can you take that pain and apply meaning to it in a way where you can help somebody else? And once you figure out how to do that, you will relieve yourself from the burden of the weight of that pain. That's my advice.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome advice. And I can relate to the fog. That's how I didn't know what decision is the right decision to make. And just basically driving in the fog. That's how I felt immediately when everything happened. But it took some time, but now I am better than I ever been in my 20s. I'm in better physical shape, emotional, mental, and I want to share with the world that it's possible to live your best life. As I say, live, dream, and grow. Discover your dreams, discover what you're good at, and share it with the world. And maybe you can help somebody who is struggling. Or maybe it's something little for ourselves, but something bigger for somebody else. And then when we feel that purpose within ourselves, when we feel that fulfillment, we're not going to feel that we are not enough. We're not going to feel like a victim. We'll feel more empowered and ready to take on a day and move forward.
Absolutely. Like, look at you with your podcast, right? Doing this podcast. How do you feel doing that? How do you feel being able to give back in that way?
Yeah. At first, I thought, who am I to do this? But then there were people willing to, commit to my dream. People that wanted to be interviewed. And this whole podcast came as an inspiration after I watched other interview series with another person. And why shouldn't I do that? Why shouldn't I do that? Because what I needed when I became a single parent, I wish there was somebody there who could tell me everything is going to work out, everything is going to be fine, these are the things that you should do. And not in a literal way, but somebody out there. Yes, my mom helps me with my kids, but mentally I was on my own because everybody around me was either married, happily with their kids, full families. And I was alone in my misery in a sense that I didn't know what to do. And I wish there was somebody there. So with this podcast, I'm hoping to be that hope of inspiration for somebody else, for single parents who need it.
You touched on something. Thanks for sharing that. You touched on something that struck to me. You felt alone in your misery, being a single parent. You know what I've actually found? And being in my position, because my ex and I, we make it a practice to co-parent together. We do a lot of family stuff together. We even went on a family vacation last year to Florida to Disney World together. And it was really fun. And that's when I get a dose of what it's like having somebody else help. Because remember, he never lived with us. So I haven't experienced that side of life. So I think for me, I think there's a difference when you are living with somebody and then that's also ripped away from you. For me, I'm really happy not having a second opinion all the time. Like we still work together. He gives me a second opinion, but it's nice on a day-to-day basis that I can kind of come up with my own thing. And he's really supportive and encouraging that way of what I choose. But one thing I've learned is that I found a lot of parents even though they've gone through their struggles, to be actually happier than a lot of my married friends. My married friends feel more alone than I honestly have. They'll say, I don't know how you do it, single parenting. I'm like, I don't know how you do it, choosing to be miserable every day. I know that sounds horrible, but it's true. Like I believe at that point it becomes a choice, take matters into your own hand. I want to live happy. I'm in charge of this life that I was given. And here's another one that I went through too. I just wrote about this recently too, how perception, we really got to check our perception. So you may look around at my place and I may look like I don't have much. My furniture's pieced together like a gypsy teenager because I lived a life on the road. I never really accumulated a whole bunch of stuff. I'm just, since having my daughter, I'm learning how to just kind of settle and ground. And then, her dad has everything. He has the almost 5,000 square foot house. He has the RVs, the car, the fancy truck. He can go on vacations. He can do whatever he wants. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, my financial situation is better. Here it looks like I'm this poor single mom. It's actually not. I'm actually quite rich. I'm rich in experience. I'm rich with everything that I have. Really, the only debt that I have right now is a personal debt with my mother. So who really is in a better financial position? Perspective. Money is imaginary. It's not, it's the value placed on it isn't real. We use it to get things, but it's you really need to take a look at what you do. I remember one time I was crying. I was having one of those pity me days because I give myself one. I do give myself one. I'll just honor where I'm at, and then I take action and make a choice to do something different. And I was in one of these pity me moments when I happened to have one of my best buddies there with me. And he got mad at me. I was saying, oh, I don't have anything, you know, like, look, my stuff's all pieced together and blah, blah, woe is me. I really went for it, like really went for it. And he got mad at me. He goes, no. And he goes, you look around your place. Look at everything you do for your daughter. Your daughter has more toys, more books, more things than most people have. And he got mad at me, and he literally did an inventory list with me right there and said, you need to recognize what you have in your life. Look at what you do. Look at the choices that you make. Look how hard you work to give yourself and your daughter a better life. You should be proud. And I will never forget that, because he really, really checked me. And it wasn't done in a really nice way. But, but at the end, it was the biggest blessing. And so that's another thing too. Really check yourself. Look around. Start celebrating what you have. Start celebrating any step that you've taken in your life. And celebrate those wins. As moms, we forget to celebrate what we did well. Yes. So go to bed instead of crying yourself to sleep at night, feeling guilty about all the things you could have done, or if you yelled that day, or, you know, I call them mom fails. If you had a mom fail, like I have them frequently. We all do. We're human. But instead of going to bed just berating yourself, go to sleep thinking about 1 to 3 things that were wins for the day, even in the smallest way. Even in the smallest way, because you're going to magnify more of that into your life, and your children are going to learn that language, and they're watching and growing, you know, with you. So show them how to do life, do stress differently.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I do the 3 gratitude things when I go to bed every night. Like,
that's perfect.
What are the 3 things that happened awesome today? What are those 3 things? And it helps me realize, you know, moving forward, I'm appreciating of the fact that I'm still alive. It means my purpose is not fulfilled yet. And I think it also helps our mind to relax and go to sleep easier, that we don't have this nasty chatter in our head, like, oh, I should have done this, or I shouldn't have done that. When you are feeling grateful for the moment, for the day that you have just lived through, it makes you present, and it allows you to fall asleep easily. So I do those practices, and I recommend for anybody out there to do them as well.
Yeah, and it is a practice, right? It didn't come to you naturally. It's like I literally have to have like the notepad beside my bed. Like I set myself up to have that, because you can't just walk by it. If you're walking by it again, you're making a choice, and then you're like, oh, it's
you know, reminders that you have to put in your environment to kind of, oh, it's there, I should do it.
Signals, yeah. It only takes a second. We think it's going to take a lot longer than it actually is. If you just sit down, 2 minutes, you banged it out. But the amount of physical, mental, and spiritual relief you have from doing an exercise or practice like that, gratitude, like you're saying, I do that too in the morning. I'll do gratitudes and affirmations in the morning, and something inspirational. So the first hour of waking up, I will not touch my phone unless it's an emergency. But yeah, set yourself up for success. Mindset is everything. Hey, Irina? Like everything.
Yes, definitely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I do the same practice of no phone for the first hour of the day. I exercise, I try to meditate or walk.
Yeah.
Set the agenda for the day. What am I supposed to achieve today?
Yeah.
To kind of have a me time in the morning for me.
Yeah, me too. And here's another thing too. Some people have super busy brains like me, and they, I don't know if you've heard about this too. And a lot of people are like, oh, I can't meditate. Blah, blah, blah. I used to be one of those people. I have a busy brain. I gave all the excuses. But there are a ton of meditations that you can do for busy brains, you know, like affirmation meditations or guided meditations. Sometimes sound baths are really great. There's a meditation app that's free. It's called Insight Timer. I know it's a weird name. It looks like a little toning bowl. It's a gold toning bowl. And they have, I think it's 35,000 meditations, including some for your children. So they'll have bedtime meditation. So if your children have some anxiety or just trouble sleeping at night, you could set them up with one of these. They're super tiny, and they're made for children. They're great. But you can choose anything. And it's cool. When you open up the app, you go to guided, and then you can pick whether you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30, whatever. And yeah, you can just pick out whichever flavor you want, from evening to morning to whatever. The other thing is all meditation isn't just guided and sitting down, you know, not all of it's like that. There are also moving meditations such as Qigong, yoga, for me, belly dancing, any type of dancing where you have to count is a moving meditation, because you cannot, I dare you to think about something else while you're trying to belly dance. It is real hard if you're counting. So what happens is you do that practice for a half an hour to an hour, and you feel so relieved, and you feel this sense of euphoria, not only because you've moved your body and you shift the energy, but because you've taken a break from your brain and your thoughts in that way. Consider that a meditation practice too, you know? So I encourage you to kind of explore walking meditations, count your steps. There's so many. So yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. If people would like to find you somewhere, do you have a website that you want to share? Or...
I do. It's under construction.
Okay.
So, but it's www.charlenehelm.com. I'm an actualization mentor, so I help people through the process of moving through major life transition. I help with families with young children. That's just my specialty area. So if you want to reach out and talk to me about it, I'll do a discovery call with you, and then we'll see whether we're a good match for working together. And yeah, and I'm an ACE, so I'm available for any questions that you might have. And I'm just so honored that you had me on here. I think what you're doing is so powerful, so rich. And I have a few women in mind who would be such an amazing compliment to what you're offering. They've had incredible life experiences. And I think your audience would really enjoy hearing their very fascinating stories to success.
Definitely, definitely. Please forward them to me. It was a pleasure of having you, and an honor. And thank you so much for sharing your story, the lessons you learned, and the strategies you implemented. The work you're doing is very powerful and needed in this time. And I really appreciate of having you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.